quick review, you have come across the electromagnetic radiation spectrum, how we can split the very broad range of electromagnetic radiation energy into different bands. Each band basically have a different function with respect to application in chemistry, application in medical sciences, application in communications, and so many other application in industries, etc., in medical equipments and in military appliances like laser, etc. So there are so many applications of electromagnetic radiations. So you have come across all our communication system is based upon radio frequency. Microwave band is useful in increasing the transition in rotational energy level, and you have seen your application, one of the application of microwave ovens. Microwave oven produces microwaves. These microwaves basically causes transition in the rotational energy level of water. Water is something which is microwave active. Not only this one, but there are other molecules which are also active, but because moisture level is present in food, so food particles, any food material is when heated, exposed to microwave radiations, it causes an increase in transition in rotational energy levels. So as a result, the kinetic energy of the water molecule increases, and if you remember, average kinetic energy of a molecule is called its temperature. So the temperature rises. This is how we can warm our uh, different kind of food material. Condition is it must contain water, moisture in it. So similarly, but if we are doing these system microwave exposure to cakes has very low moisture level. You see, it doesn't warm that much. But if we are putting that in electric oven, so it gives much better heating. So anyhow, this is the one application you have come across microwave, but molecularly at molecular level or in chemistry, it causes transition in rotational energy level. Infrared radiation band, far IR region, this is no useful at all. But infrared region is the region where we call this basically this is just before red mean the visible band. So it has a capability to make a transition in vibrational energy levels. All right. And similarly, the next one is basically the visible region which our eye can detect. And next one is ultraviolet region. So if you remember, from ultraviolet region onward, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic rays, all of these are toxic. Exposure to these radiation is no useful at all. So these causes at cellular level, at molecular level, it causes mutations. So mutation leads to maybe tumor, cancer, and so many abnormalities. So ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays, they are no useful at all. So similarly, ultraviolet, X and VUV, vacuum ultraviolet, and visible band. All these three bands are capable to make transition in conjugated system. Visible and ultraviolet, they cause electronic transition in conjugated system. Meaning you must have at least two double bond in conjugation. If you have so there shall be a homolumo. So when there is a homolumo, so ultraviolet and visible are capable to make such transition of electron from HOMO to LUMO. But for VUV, vacuum ultraviolet, if it is isolated bond, double bond, or triple bond, then such transition, electronic transition from pi to pi star takes place in vacuum ultraviolet region. Such radiations are capable to make transition in isolated double or triple bond. So this is the difference in, but all three causes transition mean visible ultraviolet and vacuum ultraviolet. All these three bands are capable to make electronic transition of pi electrons, not sigma electrons. X-rays are capable of making transition from inner shell, mean not valence electron, inner shell electron can also transit from lower to higher energy levels. So anyhow, this is the capability of X-rays. They are more energetic. Gamma rays has a very big application, not to atomic level, but they interact with the nucleus. Once gamma rays enters the nucleus, strikes with the nucleus, it causes nuclear fission. Mean nucleus breaks up. The neutron, proton, which are very tightly bonded with each other inside the nucleus, so they repel each other, and a lot of energy that we call nuclear energy effects. So this is the, in fact, different influence, how different band cause different changes, physical changes in the molecules. So anyhow, this is just the spectral vision, also called spectral band. What are the advantages of spectroscopy? So the what spectroscopy can explain us, or what information it gives us. For example, I have highlighted a few. It gives us the bond length between two bonds, a bond between the two atoms. What is the bond length? You are already familiar with the term bond length. The average distance between, it is the distance, why I'm calling, I shall explain why average distance. The distance between the two covalent bonded atoms, mean the distance between the, in other words, nuclei between the, whenever two atoms are bonded by a covalent bond, so what is the average distance between the nuclei? That distance is called bond length. Now, why I call average? Because these bonds are in constant vibration. When they are vibrating, so definitely bond length increases and decreases. So they have a maximum and minimum value. Its average is in fact called bond length. So you shall see that in IR spectroscopy later. So bond lengths we can calculate, average bond length. So bond lengths between the two bonds can be calculated. In this case, microwave spectroscopy and X-ray diffractometry. This is basically a spectroscopic method. So XRD, basically X-ray spectroscopy is useful for the inner electron transition. Mean inner shell electron can excite, or sigma electron can excite. So that is used for X-ray spectroscopy. But XRD is not spectroscopic method. This is called X-ray diffractometry, in which we pass X-rays, and X-rays when strike with the nucleus, they basically bends their angle. So when the angle is bent, so this bending angle is calculated. Different nucleus have a different bending angle. So that's why on the basis of what is the angle of deflection, we can calculate what nucleus is present. Make bigger diffraction. So this is how we call X-ray diffractometry, XRD. So here physical change is taking place. A ray is entering, striking with the nucleus and reflected, or it is being diffracted with a specific angle. No chemical change is occurring. So this is also a spectroscopic method, in fact. So either this is XRD or this is X-ray spectroscopy. Both of them are spectroscopic methods. So these are the two spectroscopic methods, microwave spectroscopy and X-ray diffractometry. Both of these are very useful in calculating the bond length. And bond lengths are always calculated in Armstrong units, mean 10 to raise power minus 10 meter, if you remember. Because normally the value we get, let's say 15 point something nanometer. So rather remembering 15 something, we call this 1.54, for example, for carbon-carbon single bond, 1.54 strength is the standard value. So similarly, there are other atoms in between which is bond is present, so they have different bond lengths, but they are calculated in Armstrong units, mean 10 to raise power minus 10 meter units. So this is called bond lengths. Microwave and XRD, two spectroscopic methods are useful. Both give us bond length. You shall see, as the microwave is not included in the syllabi, but I shall spend only one or a half lecture on this. So because this is also very important in making calculation, because I have highlighted here bond lengths. XRD is very difficult to understand with these introductory spectroscopic methods. So we are not going to discuss XRD here. That is a very specialized field, in fact. So I shall have a very spend very small time on microwave spectroscopy, just one lecture after finishing this introduction chapter, because this is also very important how bond lengths are being calculated. So you know that bond length between carbon-carbon single bond is this, carbon-carbon double bond is this, carbon-carbon triple bond is this, carbon-nitrogen single bond, double bond, triple bond is this. How these come, we come to know two spectroscopic methods. One is XRD, other is microwave, which are very useful in that. One important difference that both of microwave and XRD cannot be applied to all molecules, keeping in mind XRD can be applied to any molecule, but limitation is XRD is carried out for only those compounds which are existing in crystalline state. This is a drawback. All compounds, either they are liquid, they are amorphous, they are gaseous. They cannot be studied by XRD. Limitation is that XRD studies we can only do with a sample with a compound which exists in crystalline state, keeping in mind throughout the all number of compounds that we know these days, maximum 10% compound exists in crystalline state, mostly exist in amorphous. Because if you remember solid state, solid entities are of two further kinds. One is amorphous, other is crystalline. If there is a regular arrangement of atoms, molecules or ions, that is called on crystalline state. Like sugar molecules, you see, very simple. All arrangements are very specific. You see sodium chloride, table salt. So that is how also having a regular arrangement of sodium and chloride ions. They exist in crystalline state. But you have come across so many other entities, so many other solids, which doesn't exist in such a form. That are in fact called amorphous compounds. It doesn't have a regular range, right? So this is the difference between crystalline and amorphous solid. So we only carry out XRD with crystalline entities. So it means only 10% compounds exist in nature can be studied by XRD. This is its limitation. Similarly, microwave also have a limitation. Microwave can only be applied to such molecules or such functional groups or such bond lengths can be calculated which have permanent dipole moment. Those functional groups which doesn't have a dipole moment cannot be studied by microwave. Let's say you have an alkyne for an example. Alkyne have carbon-carbon triple bond. Both carbon have same electronegativity. There is no charge separation. So we cannot study microwave spectroscopic studies. We cannot made with alkynes. Similarly, we can't made with alkenes. Similarly, we can't made with alkanes. So alkanes, alkenes, alkynes cannot be studied by microwave because they doesn't have any dipole. So this is a disadvantage. But let's say if you have alkyl halides, in alkyl halide carbon halogen bond, this is polarized, it has a dipole. So we can study this molecule. Alkyl halides can be studied. We have alcohols. We have OH bond, this is polarized. Oxygen carbon bond, this is also polarized. So they have two dipoles. So carbon oxygen and oxygen hydrogen bond. These can be calculated. So this is the, but all other bonds present in alcohol, we cannot study them. This is a disadvantage of microwave. It is only applicable to such bonds. Such bond lengths can be calculated, which has permanent dipole. So these are the limitations. All bond lengths we cannot calculate. This is the, in fact, limitations. Similarly, second advantage, we can calculate the force constant. Force constant means the bond strength, in other words. Microwave X-rad is useful in bond lengths, but uh, IR spectroscopy is useful in calculating the bond strength. How stronger is the bond? More stronger mean if you are comparing, let's say, carbon-carbon single bond versus carbon-carbon double bond versus carbon-carbon triple bond. So alkane, alkene, and alkynes, you have these three bonds: carbon-carbon single, carbon-carbon double, carbon-carbon triple bond. Here, triple bond is more stronger bond. It has more strength because this bond is more stronger bond. It is difficult to break. Rather, carbon-carbon double bond. If you compare, double bond is more stronger than carbon-carbon single. Carbon-carbon single bond can be easily broken up because you are just cleaving one sigma bond. In double bond, you are not only cleaving sigma but also a pi bond. You need more energy. Carbon-carbon triple bond, one sigma is common among all these three, but triple bond contain two pi bonds. So you need more energy. So carbon-carbon triple bond is more stronger. Similarly, if you are comparing carbon-carbon triple bond versus carbon-nitrogen triple bond, like in nitriles, carbon-nitrogen triple bond. So in such a case, carbon-carbon triple bond have no charge separation, but carbon-nitrogen has charge separation. So these molecules are having a dipole. This dipole make electrostatic forces of attraction. Carbon shall be, carbon in nitrile shall be slightly positively charged and nitrogen shall be slightly negatively charged. Due to this charge separation, they have electrostatic forces of attraction. It make this bond more stronger. So carbon nitrogen triple bond, nitrile bond is more stronger than carbon carbon triple bond. This bond strength relative is being calculated by infrared spectroscopy. So again, there is in fact, all bonds cannot be studied by IR. Such bonds which also have charge separation, although they doesn't have a permanent dipole, but in one kind of, if they have a induced dipole, all right, if they have induced dipole, even they can be studied under infrared spectroscopy. So infrared gives us information about functional groups, like microwave also gives us. So you shall see that in much detail. Microwave studies are useful in calculating the bond lengths, but infrared spectroscopic methods are useful for calculating the bond strength between the two atoms. This is a difference between microwave studies and infrared spectroscopy. So microwave involves transition in rotational energy level, and IR spectroscopy involves the transition in vibrational energy level. These are the two major differences between them, right? Let's say proceed further. UV visible spectroscopy. UV visible spectroscopy is basically giving us energy levels. What we can calculate? Bond energy between different. It gives us a concept of energy level. Let's say you have a conjugated system. Let's say you have a benzene ring system attached with a carbonyl. Let's say this is benzaldehyde if you take as an count. Benzaldehyde is having a very simple molecule. It is conjugated. Three benzene ring and one carbonyl. They are conjugated with each other. Now, when there are conjugated systems, so we are having in fact HOMO and LUMO. HOMO are lower energy level, all occupied, and LUMO are higher energy level, and HOMO are lower energy level, and LUMO are higher in energy level. So transition takes place from HOMO to LUMO. UV or visible light is useful. If it is conjugated double bond or 7 or higher, then it absorbs this energy level difference is smaller. So for this less energy is required. It falls in visible region. But if these conjugated bonds are less than 7, so what happens? More energy level becomes higher, and as a result, as a consequence, they are not able to absorb in UV region. Where they absorb? They absorb in ultraviolet region. And when you have until and unless you have two double bonds in conjugation, all of them shall be placed 2 to 6 if you have shall be studied by UV. But if you have an isolated double bond, carbon carbon single bond, or double bond, for example, triple bond, carbon oxygen double bond, carbon nitrogen double bond, etc. If you have these type of bonds, isolated double or triple bond, it cannot study by UV visible. It shall be studied by vacuum ultraviolet or VUV spectroscopic methods. All right. So I hope all of you shall be aware of this. That this is the very similar merit I have explained. Same advantage that microwave lowest energy level after. If you remember, the microwave before microwave there is a radio frequency band. Radio frequency we can use in medical sciences. We can also for chemistry, we can calculate the energy required to invert the spin of a nucleus. We can also calculate amount of energy required to resonate the spin of a electron, unpaired electron. So these are the calculations that we can done, but that is also very useful. So I shall explain that later. So and similarly, the nature of atomic state can be calculated. What is the atomic state? Either this is, in fact, in some of them is electron spin resonance spectroscopy. It let us know either this molecule or atom or ion is existing in unpaired form or not. So it is dependent upon all of these. Either ESR spectroscopy let us know if unpaired electron is present in the molecule or not. So this is a very big clue that we can show. Let's say this method ESR is also very useful when our NMR is very useful when we are having unpaired to calculate if there is an unpaired nucleon, mean proton or neutron is present, or this molecule or this atom or this ion has an unpaired electron. Let's say you have already come across in previous semester transition metal complexes. Some of the ligand cause pairing and some doesn't cause pairing. How we come to know it cause pairing and it is not causing pairing? We make a complex and then we study the ESR. If unpaired electron is present in D orbital, it shall give you signal in ESR that shall ensure that the molecule contain or the or transition metal complex contain one unpaired electron present in it. As a result, so we can calculate its geometry. Either this is causing a pairing or not. So ligand is hard field or strong field. It is a high field or low field. Similarly, if we are having reaction mechanism you have also come across in previous semester. So for calculating, because one of the method, there are three methods. One is called polar mechanism, other is called concerted mechanism, third one is called free radical mechanism. So if a system is following or mechanism is following free radical mechanism, it must have unpaired electrons. So if a free radical is generating in the system, we can study that by ESR. ESR shall let us know either an unpaired electron is present. If unpaired electron is present, so we shall come to know that this molecule is following or this reaction is following a free radical mechanism. If no such signal in ESR is observed, so it means it is not following the free radical mechanism. So this is how we can evaluate our reaction mechanism making use of ESR, electron spin resonance spectroscopy. Similarly, the configuration of an asymmetric center can be calculated. Two different methods are being done in this case. One is a optical rotatory dispersion. Optical rotatory dispersion. This is also called optical rotatory dichroism. ORD. ORD is a technique, in fact, in which this is a spectroscopic method in which we are having basically two different absorbents we are taking along the x-axis, sorry, y-axis, and along x-axis we are taking the wavelength of the chiral light. So keeping in mind here, EMR we are using is optically active. This is a very important, you shall see, although it is not included here, but in stereochemistry, you shall see this type of application. So configuration of an asymmetric center or conformational analysis can be done involving ORD, or there is another spectroscopic technique we call circulatory dichroism, CD. CD or ORD. ORD, CD, these are the two spectroscopic methods which are used for calculating the configuration of an asymmetric center. Right, so these are the some advantages you have come across making use of different spectroscopic methods, but it is not limited to chemistry. These applications also involve application in medical sciences, application in defense studies, application in communication, application in so many other domestic life in engineering and so many other aspects in daily life. So spectroscopy is a very, very important, making use of electromagnetic radiation. So what you see, street lights around you in the night, all of them are spectroscopy. These are emission spectroscopy and atomic emission spectroscopy. So every day you see the street light or artificial sources of light you are using at home. All of them are atomic emission spectroscopy because a metal, if it is a bluish white light, so it is containing mercury. If it is a yellowish light, amber color light, it contains sodium. Normally our street lights are in dark yellow color, which is called amber color. It is sodium lamps. Or tungsten lamp, the old fashioned lamps, tungsten lamps. So these yellow lights are different sources of metals are being used. Electric potential is provided. As a result, transitions take place, and when it emits a light, so that falls in visible region. So this is what atomic emission spectroscopy you are using, you can see every day. Molecular emission, I have shown you the fireflies. Probably most of you have seen these fireflies in your night time. So these are also, especially when it is a monsoon season. So these type of fireflies you can find in many other places. So these are very useful. So these are a few highlights that you can see: molecular emission spectroscopy, atomic emission spectroscopy, similarly absorption and emission Absorption spectroscopy. Most of these technique I have highlighted: microwave, IR, UV, visible, VUV, ESR, ORD, CD, etc. All of these are in fact absorption spectroscopy. And mostly these are organic molecules we are dealing. So it is a molecular absorption spectroscopy. Now, just the total structure of a molecule can also be calculated making use of all these techniques I have highlighted: IR, microwave, UV, visible, NMR, ESR, etc. and mass spectrometric methods. So these are the advantages that we can take from spectroscopic methods. And one, spectrometry, which is different from spectroscopy. In next slide, we shall see the difference between spectroscopy and spectrometry. So what we can do is spectrometry is also useful. What it let us know? Because you have seen we calculate the number of carbon present in a molecule, number of hydrogen, number of oxygen, and number of other atoms, sodium, sorry, nitrogen, sulfur, halogen. So what is the exact molecular formula? It takes long time to calculate the molecular formula. It sometimes take years. But if calculating the molecular mass by mass spectrometric method, it is a matter of just a few minutes. All right. So time less than 1 minute is remaining. We shall log in again. So then we shall proceed further to make a difference between spectroscopy and spectrometry.